Welcome back to the Crypto Clown World channel. And this is our March 31st Easter podcast. I am your host with the honks, Jason Bruce. And as always, welcoming back in my co-host, Mr. Christopher Lundy. Happy Easter, sir. How you doing?
Yeah, happy Easter to you. It's a good day. Good Easter.
Indeed. Indeed. It's been a good day for me so far as well. So glad you're getting on well over there. We're a little pressed for time today, unfortunately, and obviously with the holidays, lots of stuff going on. So I'm going to be heading to dinner here pretty shortly, but we're going to put out some condensed and hopefully informative content for you. So with that in mind, I'm going to let Chris touch on a few things, and then we'll jump into some Bitcoin TA.
Excellent. Yeah. Easter Sunday. I'd be interested to see what Jesus Coin is doing in the TA on the
Oh,
nose.
goodness, I have not looked. I have not looked.
That would be
And
interesting to see how that moves on specific Christian holidays. That would be a funny TA exercise, right?
And something I just
Okay.
want to mention, and I apologize, I don't mean to cut you off, Chris, but it's something I've been forgetting to
That's
do
okay.
at the top of the show. Folks, if you're tuning into the podcast, make sure that you're honking the like button for us. And if you're not, get subscribed to our channel, and we'll bring you these podcasts in a timely manner in the future. The algorithm wasn't very kind to us last week, and just asking everybody for a little push on the algo for the holidays. So with that in mind, Chris, go ahead. Thank you, sir.
Quite welcome. So we're seeing huge news in the financial space right now with commercial real estate. Now, I've been warning almost everybody I know about commercial real estate for like the better part of 15 years. It's a ticking time bomb. And of course, during the not the 1990s, the 2010s, there was huge amounts of commercial real estate investment, distribution, building, major cities all across the United States of America, New York City, Manhattan, specifically Atlanta, Georgia, San Francisco, California. Another flagship office tower in San Francisco with 1 million square feet of space, as I think it took about a 70 or an 80% haircut. I'll have to look at that article, but that's just the tip of the iceberg, ladies and gentlemen. So I encourage everyone to look at Peter St. Onge's report on this. He states that there's essentially a wall of bad debt coming in, guys. Commercial real estate, and this is within the next 2 months. We're not talking 2 years or 20 years. We're talking right now, and that wall is growing because what banks are doing right now is they're pretending that their loans are performing by tossing missed payments on top of principal. That's how they're cooking the books. So defaults are already going up. In fact, they're up 30% since the beginning of the year. Commercial real estate defaults are. So expect to see significantly lower property values in the commercial real estate sector, and that will spill over into the retail real estate sector for private homes as well. Significant drawdowns are coming. Also, just in this week, the US dollar officially has lost 25% of its value since 2020. We all know what happened in 2020 was the huge COVID bailouts, right? Huge COVID bailouts. And it was equivalent to, I believe, enough money was printed in 2020 that lasted from the founding of the republic up until 2020. I believe about half, something like this, close to, of all the money issued since the founding of the U.S. Republic was created in 2020. So if it wasn't going to create inflation, nothing would. So if you're cash heavy or cash rich, might be a good idea to get a little bit more cash poor and do some trade weight reassessment. Also, geopolitical news out of Ireland. So there's all these so-called hate speech bills that are circulating throughout the West. There's quite a few, mainly in Europe at the moment, and the most draconian of them was in Ireland. And that bill has essentially become dead in the water after a referendum to remove the essential place in society of the woman, of the mother in the Constitution was summarily defeated in a rout. Above 70% of the population voted against it, and now there is a concerted coalition across the country to remove this particular government from power and potentially prosecute them. There's quite a few different scandals that are getting mixed into this, whether it be the migration crisis, whether it be the hate speech laws that they tried to pass, or whether it was anything to do with the situation with Ireland's economy as a result of Alta Aran. Now, for those of you that aren't familiar with Alta Aran, they're a essentially hedge fund, a vulture fund, and they fraudulently charged exorbitant interest in excess of 10%. Even they did their own filing documents for many mortgages that they had under contract with homeowners. And it's been the subject of a national scandal. In fact, Garda Síochána, which is the National Police Force of Ireland, is investigating the government for the first time in the history of Ireland. So expect to see significant developments as it relates to voter funds this year. Many of them can go under. And it is not the real possibility, ladies and gentlemen, that BlackRock and Vanguard, these immortal pretenders that think that they're invincible. Well, look at what's happening in their investments in Ukraine, and look at what's happening in their investments in BlackRock, and look at what's happening in Texas. What happened in Texas? Well, Texas actually canceled their entire investment into BlackRock after they discovered through an investigation that was passed in 2020 requiring Texas to compile a list of anybody that was unfriendly to its oil and gas industry, and BlackRock was at the top of the list. So they stopped doing business with them. $8.5 billion was divested. So I was mentioning a year ago about Martin Armstrong shorting BlackRock, and people were laughing at me. And they're starting to take me a little bit more seriously now that these developments are coming into play. So take a look at BlackRock's balance sheet, ladies and gentlemen. I expect to see drawdowns. Moreover, moving into the geopolitical realm in regards to the Levant.
Chris, can I interrupt you real quick because something just struck me here?
Okay.
What if BlackRock needs to cover on that end and they decide to sell Bitcoin to do it?
Well, it's not like they need to sell Bitcoin to do it, in my opinion. If anything, they would just sell the investments that their clients are putting into their ETFs. But that's the problem with investing in ETFs, is that it's not in your possession. You don't really know what they're doing with it. You don't know where your money is. So people are going to find out that this TradFi, these TradFi on-ramps, while they are good short-term for Bitcoin, they're very bad long-term for retail because of the amount of market manipulation that exposes the market to.
And for utility too. Sorry to interrupt you. It just kind of hit me.
That's fine. Yeah, it's a good point. So let's get back into the military-industrial complex, because there's geopolitical stuff happening almost on the daily at this point. So there is an activist group that is called Palestine Action. They had a group of activists that have been ceaselessly protesting at a manufacturing facility in Tamworth, UK, for Elbit Systems. And for those of you that aren't familiar with Elbit Systems, they are the primary manufacturing source for military weaponry, artillery shells, missiles, etc., for the Israeli military. And they ended up selling their Elite KL factory in Tamworth due to protests held by Palestine Action in Tamworth. The company previously produced cooling and power management systems for military vehicles at that particular facility. They decided to sell the factory instead because of declining profits, and including rising security costs resulting from the protesters' activities. So not only do we have Canada stating that they're no longer going to supply arms to Israel, Elbit Systems themselves have shut down their own manufacturing facilities to, take some of the heat off of themselves from a PR standpoint. And it's going to be very difficult for them to continue to maintain their operations in the face of that type of opposition. Also, we've got some news out of Tennessee. Interestingly, they passed a bill banning geoengineering in their airspace. Of course, it's still happening as it currently at the current time, but I suspect that this is being done in an effort to compile evidence for potential future court cases. But that's all the talking points I have for a very short Easter Sunday week. Lots more in the news cycle, but we'll definitely get a much more comprehensive roundup next week.
Thanks, Chris. That's pretty fascinating as always, man. That last point in particular, I'll have to talk to a few of my people in Tennessee and see what they have to say about that. I know.
As of right now, I believe 7 states have banned it thus far. 7
Really interesting. I'll have to look into that too, because I see plenty of that going on in my own backyard, and I had noticed that a few people that I knew from Tennessee had been complaining about it. It seems like there's a lot of that stuff going on in like mountainous areas for whatever reason. I've heard that in California as well. There was a particular area out there in California where they were seeing a lot of it, and I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but like a protected wildlife area, and they were taking the soil samples and all that other stuff and finding the barium and the aluminum. And if you're not familiar with the periodic table, the symbols for barium and aluminum are Ba and Al, and if you put those letters together, it's not very Easter friendly. So with that said, I'll go ahead and jump into the TA, and I did have the Bitcoin chart up here, so I do want to cover what Bitcoin's doing right now, and it's been consolidating sideways. We said last weekend on the podcast Bitcoin would be moving sideways, and lo and behold, it moved sideways pretty much all week. So it's been grinding, and now we're actually seeing some potential for a breakout here. We're getting above this level that I had highlighted just above 71K. We're above the local point of control, which was at around 69,950, above the 21 MA on the 1 hour Bollinger Bands, and we're also breaking out of the top of this kind of a symmetrical triangle structure. You could even maybe call this a bit of a diamond pattern, but I'd probably call it a little bit more of a symmetrical triangle, and typically we would say those are going to be 50-50, probably more of a little bit of a chance to a downside break, but in this case it looks like this is moving up a little bit, so maybe a little bit of weekend whale manipulation. Obviously this is going to be low volume with the holiday, and markets will be closed tomorrow, so anyone who's holding that ETF, you had no ability to trade or bolster your position, de-risk, whatever else you might want to think about doing in the market for 3 days. Crypto's 24/7, folks. Think about the utility that the ETF does not offer you that ability. So you're seeing this weekend whale move. We've been seeing these, and it seems that it's kind of a deal where potentially the whales are front running the institutions and BlackRock and saying, hey, you're going to have to make a decision to either buy high or sell off, and then we'll be able to buy back cheaper. So there's there's a power play going on here. There's a dynamic, and I think there's something that needs to be understood. And I don't want to spend too much time on this, but BlackRock only has so much buying power within Bitcoin, and whales in this space hold more Bitcoin than BlackRock does, despite the fact that the media might want to tell you otherwise. The majority of the Bitcoin is in the hands of the whales, and they do still have the influence over the market in that respect. So I do believe in the future that is why BlackRock may attempt to fork Bitcoin and try to force maybe a 51% mining attack with their majority ownership in the stock. I did talk about that in my BlackRock may be bad for Bitcoin video. If you haven't watched that, you can check that out further back in my old videos. I did make that a few months ago. With that in mind, this breakout is in progress, so let's kind of take a little bit of a look at what the other repercussions in the market might be with that. Right now, Bitcoin dominance has been grinding sideways. The crux of this is kind of turned into a symmetrical or a chubby type of a triangle, and again, those usually break down. So could we explore the bottom of this range again around like 51.6%? Yes. Could we cut this up a little bit differently and say maybe This is like an ascending type of a triangle here. And if so, that's going to be bullish. And that's going to take us up to this box, excuse me, for Bitcoin dominance that I've had highlighted forever. And I'm going to be honest, folks, I've, kind of inched this box along in time here. I've been looking for that since, back in October. So we just haven't seen that final leg up, I think, for Bitcoin yet. And at least on this part of the cycle, or this part of the move within the cycle, we may be setting up for a super cycle here, but we could be looking at around 59 to 60% Bitcoin dominance if we get another pump up for Bitcoin into like 75, 80, even 90K area. We'll just have to see how the rest of the market reacts to that, if there's any sell-off of altcoins into BTC. But right now, this consolidation is, moving sideways along with the Bitcoin price, and this should be coming to a head in terms of the dominance making some sort of a break within the next 24 to 48 hours as the market kicks back into gear on Tuesday. So something to keep in mind there. And I just want to jump over briefly to our weekly picture, because we are about to close not only the weekly but the monthly as well here in about 4 hours. So with that said, there is some potential right now for some possible bearish divergence, because if we look at here, the price action on the weekly, this swing up on the price action closed lower than this candle is right now, but you can see here right now we're significantly lower on the RSI, and that could cause a bearish divergence to come in. The stochastics actually have a cross on the weekly as well. This hasn't confirmed because we haven't dipped below this important 80 level. As you can see here, you can see those crosses, and you can hold this level and stay overbought and stay bullish, as we saw this continuation here with a move up sideways, and a check of the 21 MA, and then a move back up. If we got a check of the 21 MA here, that would be around $50,000. So is that possible? Yes, totally possible. Lower prices are possible too. Don't want to speculate too much on that right now. We're going to need more information with the close over the next 4 hours and into the next 2 days. Once again, with the institutions with Monday off. So just to take a look real quick at Ethereum, we'll bounce over there. Bit of an odd channel for ETH, actually. I did see a little break up. So maybe moving a little more bullish than Bitcoin, or front running Bitcoin a little bit with this flag here. Could we call that some type of breakout and retest here? Possibly. So if that's going to play out upside, you're looking at the 4,000 mark that we would be testing for Ethereum. So back up to the top of the range of this pattern, and then decide a trend direction. And swinging over to the ETHBTC pair, this has kind of been grinding sideways in this range for a long time, kind of testing the bottom of this range, and still below critical moving averages, 200 daily and the 200 weekly. So we'll have to continue to keep an eye on ETH. If we see a breakout of this flag and then a break above of this range, I would expect this pair to negotiate those moving averages into support. We take a look at our tether dominance. This has been flagging out and looking kind of weak. So this is now actually looks to be retesting this spider line here. So it's a potential breakout and retest, but this looks weak on the RSI with a denial at the 50 level on the 4 hour. This could flag lower and even create a new low. All right, and we did kind of highlight this potential head and shoulders here. So there may even be more leg of a breakdown there. looking at testing this area here around like 3.75% for tether dominance. That would mean a pump for the altcoins, and lo and behold, we had this kind of cup and handle or inverse head and shoulders structure. And you can see there's kind of a couple things going on there. You could call it either or. No matter how you slice these, folks, it's essentially support and resistance. The patterns just help for confirmation. And you can see here there was also a little bit of a flag, an ascending triangle there in that cup, and this actually could be favorable for our altcoins. So 823 billion. Next stop for total 3, and above that you're going to test that 900 billion level for the altcoins. So that's actually looking pretty juicy. I like the looks of that right now. I'm going to jump over to BNB, third largest altcoin by market cap, I believe. I may have to double check that because Solana was wrestling with it a little bit, but I believe BNB still got that third largest. And you know, I was looking maybe for a break here, didn't quite get that break, but I do believe, you know, based on the bullishness that I'm seeing with BTC, if we see that follow through, you'll see a follow through with BNB as well. Next likely target probably north of $700, maybe around $730 around this 1.618 extension. And potential measured move maybe even higher than that, north of $800. And then you've got the 2.618 extension up around $870, $880 for BNB. Still holding my long position there. I added a little bit of margin and looking good there. So just holding for the next leg up and looking pretty good. So I did have a request for Dogecoin in the Discord. A few things here to highlight on the 1 hour. Actually, I'm going to flip out to the 4 hour real quick so you can get a little better idea of what we were seeing here. I was kind of questioning this pennant that we were in last weekend because obviously this looks a little bit like a descending type of a triangle, but if you just watch your RSI, you had a breakout there, retest on the RSI, you had a break of this pattern here, this inverse head and shoulders. And even though it looked a little indecisive here, you did have a retest of this overhead resistance spider line and hit the measured move pretty nicely, not too far north of that on that move up to, you know, north of 22 cents. So what we since seen come in there was a little bit of action on the 1 hour where you could have potentially taken some profits on this head and shoulders pattern here, which did break down not only at the target level but lower as well. And now you're actually retesting that area that we had as a target before as resistance. So you're getting a little cooked on the 1 hour right now. We'll have to see how that continues to play out for Doge. As we swing out to the 4 hour, that's still looking pretty strong, and your next target would be around 27 cents. If you negotiate 27 cents into support, you're going to start getting pretty bullish for Doge, and you would have to start looking at potentially, you know, negotiating all-time highs. You know, there's some potential resistance around like 34, 35 cents, some more in the area of 44 to 45 cents, 58 cents, and then your all-time high 73, 74 cents. So do I believe Dogecoin can go that high? Yes, I do. Does the chart tell us it can go that high? Yes, it does. The chart actually tells us it can go a lot higher. If you're curious how high, you can watch my video related to Dogecoin and other dog coin price predictions. I did put that out a few months ago before this movement started happening, when we were still at the lows here, and I encouraged people to get into Dogecoin. So if you didn't, there is still time. I do believe this is going to break up to much higher price levels. As I said, check out the video in regards to that I put out a few months back. But again, the really large potential gains for Dogecoin are off the table now at the bottom here, but you can still make, I would say, a solid 10 to 20x from here, if not more. Okay. I got a request for Ondo in the Discord, and this is flagging out nicely on the 1 hour. And I know Ryan had gotten into a nice position on this, and he's been holding on to this, and it's looking pretty good for him. So shout out to him for putting that out there in the Discord. And your next moves on this, if you're holding Ondo from this area around $1.05, could be $1.36, and maybe even as high as $2.32 going into this next month of April here. So keep an eye out for that. There was an ask on AVAX. Alright, I believe Xavier was asking about AVAX. I'm going to back out to the 4 hour there. You're in kind of a chubby here. It's kind of a descending bias on this chubby. It's just not the prettiest triangle, right? But AVAX kind of does that sometimes. It doesn't always present us the prettiest flags. So if you get retracement on this, that's right at the point of control. I would look around $42 to $43. If it breaks down for any reason, break out on AVAX. That could take you as high as $100. So is there a potential move of almost 100% coming for AVAX? About 90% move coming for AVAX? Possibly. Possibly. We'll keep an eye on that. Let's see what else we got here. We got an ask on WIF. I don't think we've covered WIF too much. I am not holding WIF. I do know some people who are holding WIF in really good profit. So shout out to you if you took the risk on WIF. This was probably the spot here. Right there on the break of that ascending triangle. So you got to think that move already played out, right? So now it actually looks like you were in kind of another ascending triangle here. So this thing just kind of continued to flag out. You know, how high can this thing go? Next move for Dog with Hat could potentially be up to $20. Pretty wild. Not impossible. Just keep in mind you're getting a little cooked on the daily, and you are getting to the point where you're going to start printing some bearish divergences. So just be careful with this thing. Consider that people got in just on MEXC, mind you, around 6 or 7 cents. This thing is up at $4.50 right now. People have a lot of selling power with this coin. Be very, very careful, folks. Very, very careful. All right. We had an ask on Ajax. I believe I have a chart up on that. I am holding a little bit of a long position right now, essentially a break even, looking for a break of this area here. I missed this little area where I could have sold off. I literally stepped away for 15 minutes and bam, missed that move. So just looking for the next one here. It does look good. Keep in mind this is 3-minute candles, so I'm drilled down pretty heavily there. We did get a retracement past the previous low on the smaller time frames. As we look at the hourly here, you know, we've got this kind of gotta call it a falling wedge. If you cut it up like that, if you cut it up like this, it's kind of a symmetrical. So maybe it depends on how you're cutting this up, but keep in mind this coin's been super hot. So to me, there's not much telling you that it won't stay hot. Let's swing out here a little bit. So you actually printed this hidden bullish divergence on the 4-hour. So that's something to keep an eye on. And potentially you get a break there. You know, you got potentially a cup and handle going on here too. So pretty nice looking price action there for AGIX. And honestly, you know, these targets up around $1.99, $2.46. I think those are very realistic short term, and you'll see this thing much higher, probably around $10 or $20 by the end of this year, early next year. So, you know, this coin has had a good run, but I would expect it to continue to run, do at least another 5 to 10x from here, if not more. All right. And I had a request for Entangle. I feel like I was looking at this before, and it's MNGL on MEXC, but we were looking at symbol NGL. So let's make sure that we're double checking which coin we get into, but this is the one that I was looking at. This says Entangle on MEXC. This is the chart that we were sharing as well. And I thought maybe we were seeing a break of this right here. And maybe we did. Maybe that was breakout and retesting the, you know, the price action's moving sideways trying to obtain volume, but you're still below a local point of control here. So $1.85, $1.86 is the resistance there. And, you know, this is a really interesting project. Check out the fundamentals on this one, and again, do your own due diligence and research. Don't take anything we say here as financial advice. Get yourself a financial advisor, or, you know, like I said, do your own research and make sure that you're doing that due diligence before jumping into any coin project, investment, or trade. This is a smaller cap. Obviously, this is on MEXC, so this thing has potential to pump really hard. It also has potential to go to near zero. So just be careful out there as always, folks. With that said, another smaller cap that I'm looking at is GPT Plus. I have put this one out before. It is kind of in this flag right now. It's sort of testing this area on the RSI. If that breaks down, make it a little further retracement. So right now you're kind of testing the area above the golden pocket. If you get a little more retracement into that area around the point of control, 8,900 is a good entry there. You could see a little more retracement below that. If you see like a 786 or an 886 retracement, you can load up between 7,200 and 8,000 on GPT Plus. This is a low cap with huge potential. Be patient on this. I do believe it'll fly in the bull run. Give yourself 12 months to hold on to this coin, and just be patient. All right, don't worry too much about the day-to-day fluctuations unless you're trying to scalp off and accumulate more. But this is not an easy coin to trade. I'm going to tell you that right now. The price action is not the easiest to scalp on a day-to-day basis. So I believe that's about it for the coin picks that we had, and feeling pretty good about what we covered here. Chris, any parting shots or coins that you want us to cover real quick before we head out here on this Easter?
Well, Theta Fuel just did a rocket move. It broke out a 10-cent resistance with some conviction. Actually, it was 8-cent resistance that it cleared today. It's up, last I checked, almost 44%. So it looks like it's retracing a little bit, though.
Okay.
So, yeah. It looks like T-Drop and T-Fuel are ready to blow up.
All right. So if you were in that one, yeah, you got like a nice 80% pump. I wouldn't be shy about potentially taking a little bit off the table here right now and looking for a little more retracement on that. That was a quick move.
was.
That daily still looks
But,
strong though. Wow.
It does. I mean, there's the sell side just got completely squeezed, so there was nowhere else to go but up. But yeah, but in terms of some other parting shots, one thing I did want to mention is that it's much easier to trade in a bull market, ladies and gentlemen. So you can be
much more forgiving.
You can be a much more forgiving, much more successful with sloppy trades. Should you continue to make them? Probably not. But no matter what asset you're in, if you're in like the top 10 for the most part, and you're just dollar cost averaging in and out and the way up, you're going to make money in the market and look like a genius. But make sure that you have a look at your distribution points. Don't just blindly buy and sell. Set your distribution points, look at your targets, set them before you start to sell or before you start to dollar cost.
Yeah, that's very good advice. And honestly, that's why I put these charts out for people. It's a reference. You know, it's not again financial advice, but essentially it's what I'm doing. These are my charts. So you know, any of these coins that I'm in that I'm charting, that's what I'm going to be doing. Those are the levels that I'll be paying attention to. And you know, most of those levels that I put out, I'll be looking to sell on a more macro level. I haven't been exiting a lot of positions. I've been moving small amounts of a lot of coins into certain things I can allocate into smaller or riskier projects or other things that I have my eye on. But I'm not taking huge amount of profits out of the market right now because it looks like we still have another leg up coming, as I said earlier, for the alts. So this is perfect evidence of that with this move on T-Fuel here.
Something else I want to mention is that the DeFi plays, the really good DeFi projects, largely haven't moved yet. So if you're looking for good DeFi plays, now's the time, because the decentralized physical infrastructure networks areas are pumping first, it seems. But when DeFi kicks in, look out.
Speaking of that, let's take a look real quick at Pendle Finance, because this is one that I've been hearing about a lot. In terms of like its liquidity is actually fairly close to Solana, which is insane for something you know, that is so small. Is this like, yeah, that's Tether, right? I don't know why it says 5.25 billion. Or no, it's 5.28. I'm sorry. Apparently, I might not actually need glasses here. So, with that in mind, yeah, this is broken out on the daily, and you're looking at pretty bullish price structure for this. This is, you know, it's essentially just price discovery at this point for this coin. So, wow, I haven't looked at this in a minute. This was one that I was looking at and probably should have done more than look at it. So actually right now you're just getting a break on this. And it looks like the retest as well. And this looks like it could make like an insane move. Oops. Potentially up to like 120 or 120. Excuse me, 120 or $125 area for Pendle Finance. So that's what, like a 20 or 20x? Is that 20x from here?
Something like that. Also with the DeFi space,
wow.
You know, let's not forget, ladies and gentlemen, decentralized exchanges. You've got tokens you can invest in. You got Rune, you got GMX. Okay, have a look at those two tickers.
Let me show you what this reminds me of. This should be like a mirror image here. We swing out to the daily on INJ. Actually, let's swing out even a little bit further. Yep. So you saw here this type of a pattern here, this inverse head and shoulders. So you're seeing something similar, I think, for Pendle there. So I would keep an eye on that one to pump pretty quickly here and pretty hard. Again, as always, not financial advice. This is super low cap, but bringing up DeFi, I had just heard about this one, so something to look at. I'm feeling pretty good about this week's show. How about you, Chris?
Me too. I think we kept it short and sweet, considering the circumstances. There's going to be a lot to cover over the course of the next 2 weeks, though, so we'll definitely be on our toes, as I'm sure that our audience will be too. So
Yep.
keep knocking it out of the park, man.
Yep, absolutely. And like Chris said, stay on your toes. Make sure that you have a plan in this market. And we will continue to bring you these podcasts every weekend, folks. I do thank you, as always, for checking in with us, Mr. Lundy. And I hope you have yourself a happy Easter. And the same to everyone else who has been joining us on this podcast. If you made it this far, folks, and you haven't on your way out, please honk the like button. If you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure that you are. Hit the bell for notifications as well. We'll bring you these podcasts in a timely manner in the future going forward. I am your host with the honks, Jason Bruce. I'm going to get honking on out of here for this Easter Sunday. Much love. Take care, folks. God bless. We'll talk to you soon.